Hi, we are Nguyễn Phương Anh and Lê Bích Ngọc, and our topic today is capitalist revolutions comparing and their implications on the world then and now. Since the 1700s, increases in average living standards became a permanent feature of economic life in many countries. This was associated with the emergence of a new economic system called capitalism, in which private property, markets, and firms play a major role. Under this new way of organizing the economy, advances in technology and specialization in products and tasks raised the amount that could be produced in a day's work. This process, which we call the capitalist revolution, has been accompanied by growing threats to our natural environment and by unprecedented global economic inequalities. The term capitalism was popularized by Karl Marx in the 19th century. However, capitalism's principles were laid out by Adam Smith in the 1776. In his treatise, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations, Smith advocated a free market economy. He put into his writing what had been happening for centuries. Human beings have long traded goods and services for money, but it wasn't until the Crusades and the discovery of the New World that trade became big business. With industrialization in the late 18th century, goods could be produced in greater scale and at lower price. Capitalism came of age posted four major characteristics. Business capital is privately owned. Leased to buyers and sellers control the economy. Business owners and workers have free will to spend their money on what they desire. Minimal government supervision is required through laws. Fair capitalism reached its zenith in the 19th century with no regulation. Employers took advantage of workers with long hours, dangerous working conditions, and the abuse of child laborers. With a smashing of monopolies and increased government intervention, in the wake of Great Depression, capitalism was fundamentally changed in the 20th century. Economists like John Maynard Keynes sought to eliminate the booms and busts of economy. However, his theories could not prevent the catastrophic bust in 2008 and 2009. The unknown ideal of Kappas is at another crossroads. Internal wars, rebellions by the common folk, and inefficiency of the system as a whole. One of the major external factors that led to transition from feudalism to capitalism was the expansion of trade. Merchants began to prosper as Europe became more stable. They were a unique class of individuals in that they were not bound by obligations, thereby conducting trade in their own interest, or else everything would come to a standstill. Merchants started to transform society from subsistence to an economic one, thereby revitalizing the notion of capital gain. The new merchant class also provided money for kings, who stood much to gain by encouraging their trade. The War of National Liberation happened to end oppressive. The people claimed those rights and the capitalist revolution was pushed up. While the reason of transition from feudalism to capitalism in Britain and France is national liberation, its transition in Germany was unification. The country was split into several regions with different tariff barriers and laws that prevent the development of capitalist production. So, the need for national unification is urgently needed. In the 60s of the 19th century, the work of unification under the leadership of capitalism, the capitalist revolution happened and completed. German and Italian capitalism had the conditions to develop. French capitalism France for centuries and brought the bourgeoisie to power. Moreover, capitalism has promoted the further development in France. For example, it removed all feudal remnants, formed an unified ethnic market, and created favorable conditions for industry and commerce to develop. More broadly, it also has an impact on the world. Capitalism shook feudalism throughout Europe and ushered in a new era, the era of victory and consolidation of capitalism in advanced country at that time. Along with that, it maintains a regime of private ownership, legalizes wealth inequality and the exploitation of the rich against the poor. The division within the strong leadership department, the bourgeoisie, into parts and factions with different interests led to a profound effect on the revolutionary process, making the French bourgeois revolution take place, long and complicated. Today, modern capitalism is taking advantage of the capital, science, market, technology, and is able to adapt and develop to a certain extent. Capitalism is also forced to make some limited adjustments to the relationship of production within the framework of capitalism, but unable to overcome its inherent contradictions, which cannot transcend gender. And independent countries increasingly struggle to choose and decide on their own progressive development path. Socialism in the world, from the lessons of success and failure, as well as from the aspirations and awakening of people, has conditions and the ability to create new developments. Thus, sooner or later, capitalism will be replaced by a higher new regime, communist socialism, of which the lower stage is socialism. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy it. Goodbye!